From CRI Simple Numbers, this is Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, a podcast for those who champion market growth and anchor the nation's economy, small businesses, and entrepreneurs.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Simple Numbers Profitability Playbook Podcast. That's Brandon Gray. I'm Mike Maxon, and we're here again. How you doing today, my man?
Rolling along. It's pollen and allergy season in Alabama, so we're pushing through that. Had a full day of softball tournaments on Saturday.
Nice.
So a lot of fun at the ballpark. But man, yeah, it's nice. Spring's here.
It is.
We're just living.
Yeah, it's starting to get hot. It's starting to get hot in Alabama, so it's nice. I don't know anyone who has been to Alabama, if your listener is from Alabama, but springtime is bipolar as it gets. We usually hit all four seasons every week, and then it teases you with a week of 85 degrees and then drops down to the 30s, and then we got tornadoes 3 days after that. So interesting how it works here. So we're surviving now, but we're starting to get consistent now, and that's a good thing. Should start opening pools here in May.
Yeah, I got a shout out to our friends at the Construction Suppliers Association, CSA. So spent 2.5 days with them down in beautiful South Georgia. Really cool location. Had a great roundtable session with them. Just always one of those things that when you get 10 companies, entrepreneurs, leaders in their companies in a room together, and start doing the group coaching and the facilitation with that, great things come out of it. And so that was the case. So appreciate the opportunity to go and work with them. And if you guys are part of a group and are looking for a facilitator or a deep dive into the financial data of the folks in the group, we can help you out.
That's awesome. I got the chance to facilitate one of those groups as well one time. I think you all were booked up, and I was the relief pitcher. And that was a good group. That was fun. Super smart guys and great personalities. It's just a fun time, man. That's a real fun group to be in. Well, cool. So, hey, everyone, today we're doing another Media Mash segment. We like to do these every once in a while, or we grab some articles of things that are going on today and then things that apply to business, and we're just going to work through them. I bet you're not surprised that the ones I picked are related to the hot topic that we're hearing. The word tariff is about to go the way of keto or Beyond Meat, or whatever else you say, because what's the one, pivot, all these other terms. And I know I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying that's how much we have been talking about tariffs lately. And now that it's been a whirlwind with these. They're in, they're there, they're not, they're reduced, they're not reduced, they're quadrupled on China. It has been all over the place. And so we're here to talk about it. We are not drinking for this because I think sometimes you might need to understand what the heck is going on. But these are some of our thoughts on it, and then we're going to relate it to maybe with some of our experiences with clients and things like that. So I'm going to kick off with this first one here. And this is obviously, me and Brandon are readers of the Wall Street Journal. We like that one. Got some other ones we frequent.
That's cool. We are. We read the Wall Street Journal. Does it get a little
finance bros? Finance bros read the Wall Street Journal, man. So tariffs will disrupt corporate profits and supply chains, McKinsey CFO says. So by Mr. Walden Sue, I believe. I'm sorry if I jacked up your name, my man. This is, a great article just talking about, I think things we expected to happen, but, his basic premise is that corporate profit growth and supply chain stability will be the first casualties by these tariffs. And I'll give you an example. I don't know Brandon, but I have a couple clients who obviously import things from China. Yep. And 120% cost increases and things like that are going to ding the bottom line, because, you're not just going to go, oh, well, tariffs happened and I'm going to cut all my labor tomorrow, and all of a sudden I'm going to cut all my costs. That's just not the way it's going to work. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to get hit. And then on the supply chain side, beginning to scramble on where else do I look? And is there other areas? But then how long is that going to take? So what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, this isn't a surprise. All along the campaign trail leading up to the election, there was chatter about tariffs. And obviously, if you're a large multinational corporation, you've got the resources to start formulating what your plans are going to look like. And so, for some folks, it may have caught them off guard, but for the bigs, be very, very surprised if that's the case. This is something they've been working on for a long time. Secondly, I don't believe the dust is settled. Don't think it's final. So we have seen kind of what the normal playbook is something gets thrown out that's borderline extreme. We see how the marketplace reacts and who blinks first and all that kind of stuff. And then conversations happen, negotiations happen again. And then you've got a version that may or may not be around, and that could get, thrown back up. So I don't think it's final just yet. And that's really probably as much of the issue as the number itself. One of our consultants, Micah Ledbetter, said the other day that the market hates uncertainty more so than it does bad news. And I think he hit the nail on the head with that. If you just don't know the rules of the game, it's really hard to go out there and play it. And so that's kind of the context that we're looking in. So specifically, as you look at that article and the impact that it's likely going to have, it's hard to argue with, the impact it's going to have with supply chain, because, you're looking at, can I get the same product, and what type of cost am I going to incur if I change my supplier? And the conversations I've had with our clients who deal directly with the bigs, last I checked, Simple Numbers is not doing any consulting for Fortune 500 companies. Not really in our footprint. We specialize with entrepreneurs, but we have clients who work with them. And, kind of getting some mixed information there. On one hand, you do have some suppliers who have, some sellers who went to their suppliers and said, look, guys, we're your biggest customer. If you want to keep us, you're going to have to figure something out here. Now, as to if they have enough flexibility on their side to eat all of it, I think is to be determined. But will they eat a portion? I think without a doubt. Even our clients that are smaller, they're finding their suppliers are willing to negotiate and talk and work with them. And so I don't think it's dollar for dollar that's going to get passed on as far as that part goes. But when you kind of factor the substantial shift that people are going to experience, the play becomes, okay, do I go through the difficulty in some cases of finding an alternative supplier, change all of that, and then 3 months later, the tariff situation changes. And now I'm kind of, if I just stayed where I was at, I'm right back where I started. Some will come through in the form of price increasing, so the consumer is going to feel that on certain goods. And there probably will be some erosion of profitability along those lines. The other thing we got to kind of look at too is, a couple of things that are hanging out there that I have not seen answers to just yet. So one being, we've talked at great extent about the labor issues in the U.S. So let's just say, and I'm not advocating that this should be done necessarily, but let's just play it out. If you were getting a product manufactured somewhere overseas and you look and say, okay, we're going to bring that back to the U.S., where's the labor to manufacture it? Who's going to do it?
Yeah, things just don't up and move like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that takes a minute. Like, if you just don't we're in China right now, I'm just gonna, tomorrow move every iPhone making thing back in the U.S.
Even if that had been planned, where is the labor that's going to take all these jobs? We just don't have the capacity. And so that is a little bit of an issue. Secondly, here's the other thing that is taking place as you look at it at a high level, economic level as well. Most likely interest rates are coming down in June. I mean, pretty much the folks who are smarter than us who place their bets on that believe that they're coming down, and likely will set a trend for continued declines. How much of an impact does interest rate decline have relative to changes in pricing, tariffs, and what have you? So that's an offsetting factor there. So, but we don't have the answer on that. But I think at the end of the day, if you just kind of look at, okay, most likely as a consumer, you're probably going to see some inflation. You're probably going to see some companies have to take a cut on the bottom line. And it will be determined as to exactly what impact it's going to have with the overseas supplier from a long-term perspective. Um, so it's not, I guess in summary, you're not going to get an answer to this in the next couple of weeks, next month or two, know what it's going to look like, and we just all move forward. I think
And I'm going to end, and you be there. I'm going to end this piece on my favorite line from the article, which is the one clear thing is that this is impacting people's ability to plan ahead pretty significantly.
Without a doubt.
So, I mean, we don't have any major answers. We're still in an environment too where price increases are not drastically accepted anymore like they were through the COVID time period there. So there's going to be a lot of difficulties business faces. They've been trying to pass those things on that they're going to run into there that we're going to have to talk about. So, all right.
Control what you can control.
There you go.
That's the other thing is you can get lost in the sauce and spend all your time kind of looking at what's going to happen if this happens or factoring this in and what have you. But at the end of the day, you've got to run a profitable business. And so based on the scenario today, what do I control in making that happen? And yes, I'm going to negotiate as much as possible with my supplier. I'm going to reach out to my freight broker and see what possibly can be done there. Is there some pieces that can be moved around that may not be subject to tariffs, which could ease in the impact? And then I got to, you get back to the 3 Ps. I got to have the right price that the market's willing to accept and that I have profit at. I've got to have the right processes. So I've got to look at everything we're doing inside our company and make sure it's as efficient as possible. And I got to have the right people.
Yep. That's it. Awesome. Back to those fundamentals. All right, this next one. So the first one we hit some info from McKinsey there. This one's coming out of Deloitte. And again, I think we segued this nicely. Sometimes it looks like we plan this stuff, but it doesn't. We don't at all, actually. So the article is Tariffs, 6 moves to help companies respond to global trade matters. So this is out of Deloitte here. And so reassess your COGS. And I'm going to go through them and
none of these are earth shattering, by the way.
Yes. Right. Yeah. What short-term tactic can be deployed rapidly is to identify a company's COGS exposure to new tariffs. So again, assessing what is going on there internally with your own COGS and pay what is an issue within them that could hit it, right? And if there's any justification there to make a move on it. The next thing is multi-tier supplier clarification. Effectively assessing a company's network of multi-tier suppliers is key to operating an efficient supply chain. And so, again, right back at it with that. And right below that is the diversification of suppliers. And one thing, Brandon, that's going to be interesting out of this, and I'm going to stop on that one, is I just want to get your thoughts on it, is every time I know we've gone through things in the economy, we'll get the clients that call us that we help them get through it. And then there's the clients that get through it and they go, I never want this to happen again. And so it'll be interesting that after all this shakes out, that diversification of suppliers next time is you'll see companies coming out going, hey, I just don't buy all my stuff from here anymore. Or, I've changed to another place that is very, I don't know, US friendly or what have you. But I think that's going to be the big one there. I think we're going to get those people that, hey, we need help. We got to get through this. This is tough. And then there's going to be the ones that we got through it. I know how to get us through it. It's just, we will make sure it never happens again. Right. And that's going to be probably maybe one of my favorite outcomes of all of this is watching people not be maybe fully dependent on China, something like that.
Well, it's very similar to what we've seen in the marketing world as over the past 20 years. The cost of customer acquisition from a digital perspective has been somewhat predictable. Wouldn't say it's easy, but the formula has been figured out, and it has historically been very inexpensive compared to what it looked like prior to that. Well, now you're seeing the same disruption take place whenever it comes to trade and when it comes to supply. And you got to look at what's going to be the different route as we move forward. And, diversification is a good thing. We've had several clients that before tariffs to where their supplier for one reason or another was going to have an impact, and they were handcuffed to them. So, I don't need to be handcuffed to someone who gets thrown over the boat.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And right after that is ongoing risk sensing. There it is, right? keep looking forward. I mean, it's got to be something that now becomes part of the regular thing. Just like during the COVID time frame, the reassessing of, hey, where am I going to be at from a cash? So I got that core capital. Make sure that if something ever happens like this again, do I have cash to make a move should a shutdown happen or what have you? Now we're going to have to be, for those companies that are dependent on supplies coming from other countries. It's going to have to be an ongoing thing now to look at. Obviously, then your supply network strategy, base of operations, and lastly, the best one, human capital and tax considerations. So all these things now playing in line, and I don't know, Brandon, we got to get with Dustin and see if we can post these articles for people to look at and really get into the detail of them. But these are things now they're going to have to be considered. And I think even for me with our clients that do deal with that stuff, I'm going to make sure that this is probably a biannual reminder, twice a year reminder on making sure they're looking at this stuff.
And even if you're not impacted by the tariffs, the principle around these things is still solid. You need to look at, let's say you're completely in a services business. Well, I still got to look at where my pipeline of talent is coming from. Am I dependent upon a certain referral source? Do I have customer concentration? Apply the concept to what you do so that you can make sure, because right now it's all on manufacturers and products, but there could be a shift and a change when it may not be tariff related, but it could be a shift and a change when it comes to the services industry as well. So don't get caught flat-footed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome. So here's another one. And then I got another business one related to it, but this is out of Fast Company. And I think this is I've been wondering about this, and I've seen some things talk about, and I sent it to Brandon and Greg this weekend, but changing jobs no longer pays and might not for a while, thanks for tariffs. So the article where it was interesting, it highlighted, quote unquote, the great resignation during COVID that happened, where basically workers enjoyed the highest premiums ever of switching jobs. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of moving rampant across the landscape. We felt it here. Our clients felt it, of people just jumping job to job, huge, massive pay increases. Your employees coming back to you and coming to you and being like, hey, listen, I got companies offering me 40, 50, 60 more $1,000. And it's like, what the heck, I guess you got to take it. I mean, it's, it is what it is. But we're now seeing sort of that come back. And believe it or not, the article states about how people staying with their company are actually getting more of the dollars coming into them now than people actually moving. And we have a sentiment of the employees. So, for example, the survey that they took, 35% of respondents fear changing jobs will result in a pay cut. This is interesting. 34% worry about broader financial stability. And so if you think about it, the tariffs, and they talk about in, all the tech layoffs that happened in 2024. So I think people are seeing some of this happening, are like, oh man, if I'm good here, my company hasn't signaled anything, why would I leave and risk that? So I think that's some of it playing out.
Very likely. And it's kind of interesting too. You have surveys coming from different sources, and you don't know the detail behind it. And we talked at the beginning of the year about 2 surveys that were performed around people looking to change jobs. And over half the respondents, and each of them said they were looking to change jobs. And then you see this survey and it says, well, you might want to double check that, because if you change jobs, it may not be for the same comp. And I think there's a couple reasons that, provided if that information is accurate, that could be driving that. So Mike alluded to one a moment ago. So as we come through COVID, great resignation, changings of positions, crazy wages, and all of that, people got a lot of companies kind of got bit by sub performers getting a premium.
Yes.
And so I think, as you kind of look at going to the outside to fill open roles inside your company, there's a lot of folks who got bit by that, and they're like, oh, I'm not so sure that I want to go back to that well. The other thing that is somewhat impacting it is that, as Mike alluded to as well, depending upon the job that you're in, the area, the industry, there could be talent available. I'll use one for example. Mike mentioned tech. That's one. Marketing is another that we saw throughout 23 and 24, people pulling back spend, and there was marketing talent in the marketplace. Well, supply and demand, as you see a little bit of an abundance of supply in certain areas relative to the demand, and the wages are going to come down somewhat as far as that goes, at least temporarily. I think in other roles, it's much more difficult, depending upon, once again, the supply and the demand in the labor market for that role, to be able to bring someone in for less than what they're at. So, I was talking to some guys this past week, and they were looking at truck drivers, and they're like, it's still really hard to find them in some areas, really difficult. And when we bring them in, we have to pay them more, and that kind of changes the wage base as far as that part goes. So I think, once again, there can be some shifts that, depending upon the type of role that you're looking to hire and what have you there. But, this kind of ties into the sport that Mike and I love, college football, and University of Tennessee's got a quarterback right now who's holding out, thinking he's going to get
talked about that article.
He's thinking he's going to get more money, or he's going to go in the transfer portal. And it's kind of like, well, if you want to play that game, play that game. But as of now, the University of Tennessee has said, hey, appreciate all you've done for us. Good luck as you move forward. So I think that's the same too in some positions. Like, I think you're flirting with above market here on what you can bring to the table.
Well, plus, hey man, ain't no one going to work for less. Like if you got hired at a premium, I mean, if you're going to go to a next job, I mean, and so companies, that's why in our 100 company model, I mean, I don't want to dive into that right now, but I mean, you still see labor dollars going up. I mean, no one's walking around like, oh man, I was making 100K last year, but I'm going to totally work for 80 this year. It's like, I don't think the economy is there yet to have any sort of wage.
It's still somewhat sluggish. And we'll kind of see as we move forward. But, I think the thing to keep in mind here is you make it practical for your company. I got to take care of my A players, because there is still a shortage of A players. And we talked about this on some past episodes. The gap between A players and B players is growing. So I got to take care of my A players. Secondly, as you kind of look at the marketplace and all that's going on, this is a snapshot in time. And in 6 months, it could be different.
Totally.
I don't want to fall back on kind of going, well, they're probably not going to leave if we don't increase to market or, the upper percentiles of the marketplace, because the article said that folks can't make as much if they leave. Well, be careful with that one. You're playing with fire. I want to continue, if you're an A player and a rock star inside our company, to be in the upper end of that wage band. Once again, still at market, but in the upper end of it. So don't extrapolate from that. I'm not going to reward those who are producing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up here, you're like down here, so I see it. It expands daily, but I still love you, man. All right, so this last,
I just make stuff up on these things. I mean, whatever it takes, stroke the ego there, big guy.
That's right. So this last one is a pure, like, Mike, you totally looked at that article because you're still a child, right? So I'm perusing
here. Yeah.
And Chicago hot dog eatery, Portillo's, slims down menus to expand nationally. Oh, there's a lesson here. Looking at it, I'm like, you know what? This would be a great one to talk about, because they're doing some very cool things and expanding it. So just a real heads up about Portillo's in Chicago. Their locations are huge there. They said I think their main one's like almost two basketball, professional basketball. Yeah. And I thought that was pretty cool. But what's cool about is in their expansion, They're going to Atlanta, Houston, Vegas, and so they're probably going to they're going to really try to ramp it up. But they're getting more efficient. They're doing things differently to obviously get their stuff out there. These hot dogs. And hey, smaller menus and dining locations, ordering technology, and rewards for loyal customers. So we're beginning to see some of that there with this. They have 15% roughly fewer menu items. And my favorite part of it was, and again, what this relates to a lot of the business we discuss with clients, is the aim with the leaner menus is to improve order speed and accuracy while cutting training time for workers. So they don't have to learn how to make certain desserts or take required courses to serve alcohol, which they also do at their other location. So you're seeing an overhead savings in there. You're seeing labor savings in there, while still delivering made potentially a better quality product to its customers. So, a lot of good things out of that one. I really liked it. But we're talking hot dogs, man.
Well, if we're going to talk hot dogs, we have to mention our favorite example of efficiency, which is the McClaskey Excellence Institute. David McClaskey, who worked with a hamburger hot dog drive-through only chain in Northeast Tennessee and
They sold hot dogs at that one?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Called Pals. Three times faster, 3 times more accurate than Chick-fil-A. And so this is basically a play out of that playbook. And like Mike mentioned in the article, what is it we do well? I've got to make sure that we take care of that. And once again, kind of given the difference between A players and B players, I'm not going to try to ask my team to do 30 different things. I'm going to ask you to do 3 things really, really well at 100% volume, at 100% accuracy. And if that requires us to slim down the menu to make that happen, great. I would also say that, as you look at the menu, you're and this applies to services, products, whatever it may be, what are our highest margin service or product offerings? And that's where we need to make sure that we're spending some time on getting really, really good at delivering that, because it's really easy to kind of chase the shiny object and say, well, everybody's wanting this too. It may not be something we're really great at, but they want this other thing. Do we need to dabble in that? And sometimes the market is pushing you in that direction, and other times you're pushing yourself in that direction because it seems easy. But what turns out is the other efficiencies start to suffer. You're not that great on it. And for what they do, I would assume, if you're getting a hot dog for lunch, you're not going for nutritional value. You're going for 2 things: price and speed.
Oh yeah.
So we've got to do this as quick as possible at a very affordable price. And to do both, we have to be extremely efficient. So what is the customer wanting? And make sure that if that's aligned to what we do a really good job of delivering that. And don't get lost into the things that don't matter. One of my favorite sayings is keep the main thing the main thing. And by the way, if you're struggling with that, then like I said, David McClaskey is your go-to. David is probably the best in the world at systems and processes. And you slim down the menu, you get it lean and mean on what you can deliver. You find the most effective and efficient way to make that happen, and then you go deliver.
I might want a hot dog or hamburger for lunch now. This is sort of taking a turn for me here.
Also, the other thing inside the article that beyond just kind of the efficiency side is they want to expand nationally. So we've got a client that really has a great saying whenever it comes to expansion geographically, which can be a great thing. But he says it's the man, not the market. And you can take a rock star person and put them in a market that's average, and they'll have a rock star location there. Vice versa, you can take a market that is really, really great and put an average person in it to oversee the operations and sales of it, and it's going to be average. So make sure I've got the right person beyond just the right place.
Beautiful, man. Well, that did it for man. We're almost 30 minutes exactly.
We just brushed the surface on a lot of those.
We did, yeah. We didn't really.
So we kind of could go into, but on the tariff thing, like we said, we got to continue to see it play out. Yes, have a strategy. Get with your freight. If that's impacting you, get with your freight broker if you haven't already. They might have some insights and what have you. Obviously, you're negotiating with your suppliers and what have you, but it's somewhat of a tax. And if there's a tax put on corporations tomorrow, what's going to happen to prices? They're going to go up. So it may not be dollar for dollar in this case, but we're going to see most likely some of the things that you were buying off of Amazon that were $11.99, they're now going to be $14.99. Just kind of brace. It's likely coming.
Yeah, great. That's right. Everything we always talk about it. Me and Mike always talk about it. Like everything's so expensive, It's like, man, even some more now. Come on.
Yep. Well, it's gonna likely change, and depending upon what type of disposable income you have, it's gonna change some ways you do things.
So, oh yeah.
Tighten the belt.
Oh yeah. Ramen it is, man. I've eaten some ramen. Been a while. My daughter likes ramen. I told her, I'm like, you're going to be she's 14. I'm like, you're going to be a great college student, or, she's big into soccer and wants to do that whole thing. And I'm like, you'll be perfect if you have to travel college. Cause I'm like, you tear down some ramen, and it's cheap. So I always keep some ramen in the house. It's good for that.
Ramen and taco.
Ramen for all.
Live on to get through college.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. A lot of Taco Bell. Anyways, well, hey everyone, thanks for joining us. We're actually doing another episode later this week. Another interview, another entrepreneur. Good. Yeah, we're rolling them through pretty good. And Brandon, we still talking workshop here. We've got quite a bit of hits on that. I just got another one today.
Yeah. So Simple Numbers Workshop, we are putting together the class of that. We do have a limit on the number of folks that we're going to have participate in that. And so if you're interested in being able to go through the basics of the simple numbers process, the playbook around it, you might say, let us know, and we can discuss more with you about what that will look like in that workshop fashion, and kind of get you going in the right track.
Yeah, and you'll have to deal with more of me and Brandon. So,
hey, nothing wrong with that. Dustin gets to start his Monday every Monday with Mike and Brandon. What a way to start your Monday. By the way, Dustin's our guy that makes this podcast happen. So I'll be sure and give him, show him some love with this, because he does all the hard work.
Yep. Yeah. We just get on here and talk, and then he has to hound us for stuff we should have given to him initially. And so we love Dustin, man. Well, all right. Well, we'll see you all in a couple days, and we'll be back for that next episode, and then back to our regular scheduled every week from there. So y'all take it easy.
Later.
If you want to know more about driving sustainable profitability for your business, or are interested in learning more about CRI Simple Numbers, please visit our website at simplenumberscri.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast. You can subscribe to Profitability Playbook on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. If you liked what you heard today, please leave us a review. The views expressed on Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, are those of the presenter and moderator and do not necessarily reflect the views of CRI Simple Numbers or the CRI family of companies. This podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to replace professional advice received directly. Consult with your CRI Simple Numbers advisor or another trusted professional if you have questions about your specific situation.